You are listening to a piece of the Salasin.10 podcasterium. You are listening to a piece of the Salasin.10 podcasterium.
Vic also asked me a question lah. Come on lah, it's all there already. Config all there. Oh, you mean? I'm live already, Start already? Yes, finished.
It's live. In the group also never get.
See.
After all, never get.
Go. It's cool, right? Okay, it's live, okay?
At least we still get the nice interface. It's very easy to make it non-native. So maybe I'll try to find
Only one person watching. No, you go to Facebook. No, check the notification. See something.
But it doesn't prompt. Or you mean
It doesn't prompt you.
so we have two. One is one execute. But the one you
How you
no, I think fans need to prompt because so far I never get.
You're not my friend. You're my friend.
Not my fans.
No, I never said you. It's okay, it will be posted.
Then you go out in Meetup. I need help in finding a scalable way to handle hierarchy like pleasing I have trouble connecting them because okay, so on our side we are careful who we refer because we don't want at the same time basically we don't have specifically.
Alright, so welcome to another edition of Javascript Wednesday. Today we have a cozier group, so thank you for coming nonetheless. And there's pizzas at the back if you guys are still wondering. So there's a couple minutes to 8, I think we can just start. So first up today, we have two talks. First is by Michael, and he's team lead of the CNAM project. We'll tell you what exactly CNAM project is after this. And then followed by that, you can answer questions and take your time.
We are talking of the questions you want to ask later to this or any other product experience and stuff. Feel free to ask. Just caveat, this one is fairly academic, not in real production. So, but yeah, feel free to ask. I've done production.
Okay, take it away.
Hello. Can you hear? Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So welcome. So today we're going to cover this is a JavaScript larger scale using Laravel and Novembox. So before we start, I just need to do some advertisement. So I'm Michael Leo from Sina Project. So in Malaysia, we are working in a constrained environment. So you have freedom to say what you want to say, but there's no guarantee of freedom after you say what you say. So, but yeah, we are here to champion transparency and openness. So we are an initiative to use open source and open data to try to empower you guys as citizens to hold your government. Doesn't matter whether it's incumbent or opposition, to hold them up and to work with transparency. And later on, we'll definitely seeking your help, voting code, and also maybe contributions, proper contributions. So by the way, back to today's story. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are experiencing this as well, right? A lot of you guys these days are in startup, right? And you have every startup always you have a great idea. When you're still young and naive and you have stars in your eyes, you didn't go with ideation. So yeah, it's a good thing. I've done the startup myself, so it's good that you are ignorant because if you actually knew what you were going to suffer through, when you know what to start it. So good news is good. I always encourage young people to at least try it out, and you have very little risk. So yeah, so this guy is a JavaScript. He just finished a great bootcamp from Next.js. Say, okay, I've got a great idea, right? So let's go with this service which everybody would actually want. Code as a service. So you roll it up in Node.js. Okay. And then it's going to deploy the code. So please don't use MPP to deploy a code in this day and age. You may not need to use this. But in here you see they actually deploy code. We'll go through a bit more deeper later on. So yeah, we finally came up with this MVP, right? Great product, code as a service, right? So each time you get a new code. So yeah, let's start charging money for what will take me millions of customers. So, but is this true? Yeah, in your startup, most of the time you find out that what you assume was people will pay you, and it's probably they won't pay you. But that's okay. That's the point of startup. You got to move quick, again, and change your do what we call pivot. Right? So okay, cry a bit on it. Like okay, nobody pay me for this, but now let's come up with the next great idea. Right? So instead of using Node.js, let's use a proper language, PHP. I love Laravel. So, yeah. And please use a proper development environment, let's say like Vagrant. So, and of course, since we are a JavaScript user group, let's use the best modern framework, Vue.js. Don't use React, or don't use, whatever you can ask it later on. I suggest you go Vue.js. So let's, you're a single code developer, you're hyped up, let's code in. Let's go back to the drawing board and write out the code for my music server as a service. So people won't want to pay for code, but let's write this thing, let's deploy it. So run it up, deploy it. So we have written code, your basic Laravel code with Vue.js frontend. So we have some MySQL database, app server, and a web server. Right. So okay, you're gonna write code and it's gonna deploy it. Okay, so while it's deploying it, here you can actually see they're using something called Novembox, which is open source. So in this case here, instead of running one server by yourself, you actually are running clusters of servers. So think of it as one huge image system. You don't have to worry about how many servers and things like that. You just say, okay, my huge machine has this case here, 40 gigs of machine. How it distributes the load, you just now we saw that we actually ran a plan and time when you are first starting out, you might want to think like, okay, how do I handle my load balancer, what's my IP address, and things like that. But when you have something like your notepad box, and if demo logs will shine a bit, you can see here, after you deploy the application, your load balancer actually automatically handles it for you. So, for example, just now we saw you have a huge cluster in there. Okay, I'll turn this guy off. So, okay, nobody's going to pay for the phone as service, so let's turn that guy off. Now, our music as service item. Let's just run one copy. So those of you guys who are sharp, you'll see cheated a bit. The data is already running. So ask me a question later on that. Let's see if this works. Okay, so just now I said I want to run one copy of my service. So again, I don't have to do any configuration. It will auto configure the item in the load balancer. Let's see whether works. So this URL is going to say, let's see if it works. Come on. I'm not happy. Okay. Okay. Okay, so spending, quickly did an MVP on the music as a service, and let's just have a look how it's playing. Hopefully you can hear this actually sounds on. So it's actually, yeah, so your MVP of your product, we actually managed to get it working. Right, so that's the version 0.1 of our code. So yeah, compared with the code as a service, this time we got some traction, because our early users was using it, and they're giving you feedback. So yes, this is what you want in your startup, right? The code may not be as perfect, might not have all the features, but at least you manage to deploy it. You have a feature that somebody's actually interested in it, and possibly you can ask them to later on to charge for it. So okay, great. So we have version 1 of our code ready now, and more people are asking, for more of your code. So yeah, so the next stage in your startup is, after you have gotten traction, right? It's time to hire, and I know some of you guys are here to do exactly that, right? So you want to hire, right? But as we know, it's very hard to get people with skills. So yeah, if you need to hire cats or monkeys, you throw enough of them and they type enough, probably the next version of your application will pop up. But before you do that, you can hire a cat, it's fine. But then make sure you use a standardized development. So if you saw earlier on, we were starting with the Vagrant, which is a good start to standardize the environment. But these days, for developers, I suggest you start with Docker. So for Laravel, there's a sort of a framework called Laradocs, where they do all the setups that's needed for your Laravel application for you. So especially as a Docker beginner, you don't know where to start up. So especially for Laravel, and of course in Laravel there are basic front end is Vue.js, so that's why you see Vue.js and Laravel always close together. So when you're using Laradoc, you actually don't need to learn all the intricacies. So in fact, for a lot of things, we'll be doing a Docker thing this afternoon, so we can definitely show you some of these items as well. So Laradoc will do all the Docker setup for you. You don't have to tweak. So you can actually read the scripts to servers, you can choose a different search engines. Of course, Laravel in this case, you mostly have PHP, but in the front end, you can use your Vue.js. So all these things can be easily set up. And basically, for a development environment, you can easily get started writing a code in there. And basically, when this one is done, you can actually, Docker, you can think of it as compiling your code into a package which can be reused. And if you see, deployments, we are actually just reusing this compilation. I sort of cheated and did the compilation earlier on, but we have different versions. So let's get our version 0.5 out. Right, so we run that first. So each time before I deploy, I actually do a planning. So since we are getting traction with our product, you can see I'm actually running 5 copies of my service. So last time when we were deploying, you would have to say, I need to get more servers and things like that. So but here with your Docker and things like Nomad box, you can put up your underlying cluster. Remember just now we have a cluster with like 40 gigs. So we can just ask as many application nodes that you need to fulfill your customers' usage without needing to spin up new system. It will handle where it deploys a workload for you. So in this case here, it's going to add another 5 copies. So once we plan, let's just run. So this is the 0.5 version. So again, let's go back to the slides. So we let this run a bit first. Yeah, so in a startup, the important thing for you is to churn out your new ideas and move quickly. So when you have a system like Nomad box where it handles your load balancing and deployment scheduling for you, where you don't have to bother about okay, what's your IP address and things like that, then hopefully that will be able to help you move faster. Right? And as I was mentioning, we actually have 3 copies of our different apps at the different life cycle. Each time when you create a new version of the app, make sure you tag it with a version. And then you see on the left-hand side there, it's just think of it as how you tell the machine what type of resources your application needs, how much memory, how much CPU, and it will do the planning and execution for you. So let's see if this works. Okay, so this one, what you're seeing here is something called traffic. It's a load balancer. So you saw me, right? I didn't do anything, I just ran it. The load balancer will automatically detect 2 versions of the application. So a lot of time when you're iterating quickly, you already have a product running up there, right? Some you saw version 0.1, right? So but when you're iterating, you want to say, I want to come up with new versions, but I don't want to impact my current customers or users. Okay, so let's go to another screen. Let's see if demo works. Okay, so this one is the version 0.1, which you can see by the black screen. So this is another user. Okay, so it looks the same. So this is 0.1. So when you're using something like Nomad box and traffic, what you can do is you can actually give it some rules to say like, okay, if I pass in a header to tell the version of the application I need to see, so without any needing to any configuration on the end other than sending this post header to say the versions of the code I want to see. So the blue color one here is basically the version 0.5. So you see on the normal users, your sort of most of your other customers, they're just seeing the current version of code 0.1. Right? But for your internal testers, you just have pass a header called version 0.5 and automatically configuration, your deployment of things like your configuration, you no longer need to actually redeploy the code. You can actually just deploy your basic code base, and it can act quite dynamic. Okay, so now 0.5 is out, and you're starting to grow. So again, you want to be able to easily deploy out the system. So again, if you see Nomad box, this is your cluster. So green one are those folders that are being deployed at the moment. You have about 38 gigs left, so you can actually deploy a lot more workload. So let's have a look. So now for this free service, there's only 5 copies, so you can easily update to let's say 12. So in your back end, you see now there's 5, but in a while it will slowly move up the load automatically. So again, in terms of deployment, you don't actually have to do anything. You just go to your MA interface, increase up the number of nodes that your application needs to handle, and then should load up. You can always check how far it has gone by looking at allocations. Anyway, yeah, so again, this one, depending on your life cycle of your startup, if you need to scale up quickly, you can use this. Then some other functions your startup always needs is like, you always need to run, let's say, reports at the end of the day. Right? So previously, last time you need to manage things like cron and queues. So in your Nomad box, all these items are sort of provided for you that you can actually use. Plus the hot items, nowadays we hear things like serverless, that means you can actually deploy jobs that are small and then one-off. So instead of using things like AWS Lambda, you can actually have full control of your own serverless application. This. So now people have used your service, and now time to collect the money, right? That's the most important step. So let's start for premium content in the version 1.0. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so in here you can see that since we upped the count to 12, we actually will reduce it to 10. But in here you will see a bit further down, you see here they have a new group of items called paid items. So that's where they are hosting the paid version of your application. So most of your users will be using the free version, which is concurrently being deployed. But those who will pay, you will give them, let's say, a special key, and then they will automatically be routed to the paid version of the service. Plan, but the run no idea. So plan there is more just for you as a safety, so don't run anything you wouldn't that will be damaging to the environment. But once you plan it, service being run, so it's run concurrently. In terms of the information, you can see how many copies are each running. So in this case here, paid has just one node, free has 10 nodes. So as in most applications, most of the users are free one, paid one, bit less. But then basically they have exclusive rights to the media. Right? So this how can saturate potentially your customers. So let's say you get a bit more customers, you just up the number of cloud, then you will have more servers to handle the workload. Okay, so now for your paid customers, you just give them a secret access key. And it works. Okay, so yeah, apparently your paid customers like pink stuff. So, so here for the paid users, when they view any of your song, they can see information about, they will do a automatic search on YouTube. So they're paying you, $100 per month for this. Cool. So you're getting money. So, yeah, if you don't know who this is Richard M. Stallman, one of your Free Software Foundation. That's why you can run a lot of open source and free software stuff. So do support it. If you notice, Free Software Foundation do have official song, so feel free to download it. And of course, we are working with Sina Project, so we do get interview with BFM, so you get our BFM exclusive interview on that as well. Feel free to download it. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so profit, you get a lot of money, VCs will buy up, so that's well done. Yeah, so okay, this one might be a bit fast, so I think at this point I can probably open up for questions. The rest will be a bit more implementation details. So yeah, I realize it might be too infrastructure centric, but hopefully this story gets you a bit into the mindset, okay, where your startup will be going. Right? Going from a small one guy startup to your large paid application, you can scale up using Nomad Box, which is actually an open source. You can think of it putting together a few open source tools that is used that's produced by a company called Meetup. You see Nomad, Terraform, Consul. So all these things are for you to sort of scale up your application. As a developer, you probably don't need to know the nitty-gritty here, but the person in your team who is a bit more on the infrastructure or they call it DevOps kind of stuff will probably be more interested in this. You'll be writing the Laravel and UCS code, but this shows you that how you can easily, once you write your code in here, can easily scale it up without needing to do much intervention. So in fact, it can be set up so that you as a developer you can also deploy it. So the rest are a bit more detailed, so I would like to open it up to the floor to maybe some of your questions, or if you have questions on scaling or infrastructure, or what is this Docker thing that people are talking about. So things like Nomad Box doesn't run just Docker, it does run other applications like Golang, library, Java as well, for those of you who does Java work. Okay. Questions? Yes.
So is Nomad Box production ready?
The individual components are definitely, Nomad Box is all on my implementation. Each of these items you see in here is it's not done by me, it's done by a company called HashiCorp. So like things like Nomad powers probably the second biggest like trading firm in the US, like Capital One and something like that. Right? So each of these technology that is featured in here is definitely used in production, definitely handling tens of hundreds or thousands of nodes. Nomad Box is sort of my interpretation of how you put all these tools together. Because HashiCorp gives you the tools, but think of it as each of it as a tool standalone. They don't give you an instruction manual. It's not like IKEA where you can form it together. Because it's very flexible. How your organization structure your deployment or your scaling is usually sort of in-house. So Nomad Box is sort of my interpretation of answering questions like, like the first one in here, vagrant, okay, as a developer, how do I standardize my development environment? So my suggestion is to use something like Docker, right? Nomad is how now you have your application, you want to scale it out, let's say you have 10 machines, you don't want to bother where you deploy it, how you want to deploy it. Nomad Box can handle that. Terraform, the purple one on your far right. Think of, I'm sure you guys heard of AWS, Azure, GCP from Google, right? All these cloud infrastructure, right? Some of you might be taking care of the infrastructure here, going into the console and clicking the things to deploy your servers. So you can do that for small scale, but for large scale, you want to sort of codify it. When I say codify it, what it looks like is like this. Show you. So this is something we learned from you guys, you guys in the development world. So when you're running your servers, we no longer just click on stuff. We actually write code to represent how you deploy your servers. So that you can actually give it to, let's say, a junior guy in the team, and they can actually run the same script, and it will be fairly consistent. Right? So if you see in here, it might look a bit of Greek, but if you look at it, it's not that difficult. It's just instructions, just like how you're writing code to do something. You can actually write code to deploy your the one at the bottom right, just now you saw I was just changing the variable, and then we showed like different content, right? So that one is powered through console. Console acts as a distributed key value, and also service discovery. When you have many servers, when you have a few servers, you might be putting your IP address and host name manually, right? So you don't do that for once you have like more than 3 servers, right? You want to use something like service discovery. Because these days in the cloud, your servers will come and go. So let's say you need to do an analysis by doing our machine learning thing, right? You need to run 1,000 machines. Are you going to be typing 1,000 IP address into your application? No. So when you spawn up 1,000 nodes, console in here will be sort of taking in the request and writing down, okay, who's around? And then once it appears in the console registry, you see my load balancer, how does it know how to automatically adjust? Right? So when you register a new server or new service, it will appear to the load balancer. So in terms of configuration, you no longer need to do all these things manually. It actually just appears automatically. So this one is on load console. It will tell you things like your nodes, who is up, who is not up. What did it? This guy has a bit of problems. This guy that's working. Experimental node, what does it have running? So this guy has a few things running. And the director node, and a few other things running. And then the last one at the bottom, this one is an important one. Maybe not so important at the startup, because you really don't care about security. But when you want to deal with banks and trading companies and things like that, everything has to be audited, everything has to be sort of certified, has to be secure. Right? So rather than inventing your own ways to do the security, as pronoun call. So think of it as just a key lock, right? When you put your password, your security, you want to put it into one central location. Yeah. So again, coming back to the question, can it scale? Yes, definitely. Unlike the Nomad Box one is done by me, so you probably cannot trust me. I've not run Nomad Box in production, but images and the source code of all the items in here. Any questions? Other questions? Yes. Yeah, so think of Nomad Box as now we have all this.
I'm very surprised.
You have all these individual items, right? So, but how do you use them together?
Nomad Box bring all everything.
Yeah, so Nomad Box is my trying to answer how to bring them together. So this is how it is structured. So basically, if you have heard of projects like Kubernetes, this one may be somewhat equivalent. Of course, not as good. There's only one person here. But basically, it's how I put it together so that you guys as a developer can deploy an application to that much easier. Because you don't have to try to figure out how to use this platform. But again, you don't have to follow this. Each of these products can be used separately and it is standalone.
How do you manage the load balancer?
Oh, load balancer, yeah.
What is it? I mean, it's not.
Yeah, so this project here is called Traffic.
Traffic is not done by you.
Yeah, not done by me.
Traffic is a load
It's
balancer.
also open source software. Not my architect, but these are what you call the modern load balancers. Load balancers like Traffic and Audio. What happens is that you register your service in console, right? Remember the now console?
The console is from Nomad Box.
Yeah, console is from Touchdown. So this guy here is from this called console. Right, so you can see what kind of service you are running. So here's my database service. For my paid customers, they have their own database. Right, because they pay more, then they get their own dedicated.
Does it mean console don't have an interface, user interface? Your Nomad Box provide console and user interface.
No, Nomad Box uses console as a service registry and key value. So what I say is key value is here. When you're writing your code for your code, a lot of time you do configuration, right? You write in your text file or YAML file.
You use Vim or something.
Yeah, you use Vim type file, but each time you change something, you need to redeploy, right? So when you use console together with Nomad, you can actually change it dynamically. So if you see here, in this case here, think of it as a configuration that's posting out that your application can read from.
How do you integrate Java server with Nomad Box?
So let's say you're running a Java workload. So when you run the Java workload, Nomad will register it as service. So for example, if you see here,
Somewhere I have a Java server, I notify Nomad Box.
so let's say you run a Java application. So like you see here, this Kuala PHP MPS is the Lara application. So when we run that thing, it will automatically register it to console. So when you register it to console, the load balancer knows about it. So last time you had to configure it manually. So when you have something like console as a service discovery, all these things sort of happen for you magically once you do the linkation.
No Docker involved.
Docker is the, how you say, execution. So in this case here, we run this PHP application as a Docker. But let's say I run a Java application, I can launch it without.
So you mentioned Laradoc, right? Use Laradoc as a
So we write an application and package it as a Docker application. So where is it going from? It's from here. So what I didn't show you there is after you write an application, how do you compile your Docker file, right? So if you're familiar with Docker, when you write a Docker file, you can actually create a Docker image and then push it up. If you're using open source like me, all this software is open, so I don't have to put it into a private registry. So you see here, I have 3 versions of the application, right? 0.1, the black color one, this is the blue one. 0.5 just the blue color one for people like blue. Right? 1.0 is for those who like pink and can watch the YouTube.
So you created this whole Nomad.
Yeah.
You create this and then the whole thing
provide, the idea is to provide something simple that you guys as a developer, you just have to write your code, let's say this Docker, and then you will just do like what I did just now. You just plan and then you just run it, and then you will automatically deploy to the load balancer and whatever. So the idea here is that how do we make it easy for developers to not have to worry about this type of piece. So again, it's just one interpretation of how we bring together all these open source tools together, right? Because in a larger scale type system, they don't have like a black and white blueprint. So think of this as just my interpretation of a blueprint. So I welcome you to contribute or have a look at the source code and ask questions as well. Feel free. Yeah.
Thank you. Really nice, man.
So yeah, check it out. Let me know. Yeah, you run each of these things. Yeah, so you got your own flexibility. The nice thing is that they're very flexible. You run standalone. So for example, if you didn't want to run things in Packer, like I did use Packer is to like create an image on the server, right? If you didn't want to run it like console, you want to run console, you want to run another alternative like SCD, you can, right? In here, I didn't use Vagrant. I said you just use Docker and RDoc because Vagrant was useful maybe 5 years ago, right? When you don't have that much flexibility. So nowadays, Docker is much better in terms of developer experience because you can write an application and then give it to your friend and they can actually run it very easily, right? You don't have to say, hey, work on my machine, right? I did work on my machine. So Nomad.box is the next level after that. Once you have a standalone application, because the application don't work by itself nowadays, right? You have many different services, it may be written by many different teams and you want to bring them all together. So Nomad.box is one interpretation of how you bring all this together so that it hopefully makes your deployment easier. Because basically, before this, like in my previous startups, we do it the more traditional way, right? So it's a very fixed infrastructure. But you see all the modern infrastructure in here, it is very dynamic. So even in terms of cost of your, let's say, Amazon Azure, last time you just run one server and it just did one thing, let's say just for web servers, because you're not flexible enough. But nowadays, just now you saw by Nomad.box cluster. So nowadays you can just think of all your, let's say you got 100 machines, it can all be dynamic and just think of it as one huge machine. And just tell it to say like, okay, this type of workload, I want it, let's say we're doing machine type workload, I want it to be running on machines that are GPU intensive. Then let the Nomad schedule it for you. Or you want to say like, okay, all this type of workload should have lower priority and you only run it, let's say at night. You can also handle it for you. Or you want to say like, this one database should only run on this particular nodes or machine. So you can actually do quite a lot of constraint in there and you can maximize your utilization. So as a business, you want to say like, okay, I can use transport at AWS, but I want you to use it fully, to use it as much, 80% usage. That now a lot of the systems are maybe 30% usage only. But you also want to not make sure you have one single part of failure. So if there's any failure, if any node goes down, Nomad will actually reschedule your workload to another available node. Right? So if one machine in the cloud, you must plan for all your nodes to go down. Right? So the good thing when you have console and things like that, when the node goes down, console will take note of it. Hey, this guy is dead. So then they will actually reschedule it. And then again, on your end, you don't have to do anything, you just point it out. Plus this assumes you have enough servers. If you don't have enough servers, then basically certain of the workload will be dependent. Right? But if you have enough servers, then basically you will so like in here, they have 38 gigs of capacity available to that. So you can run a lot more workload in there and it's still be able to handle it. So that's the general idea.
Seems like your tool is just your.
Oh yes, this one is using Azure. Oh yes.
What if
any of the parliamentary estate enhancers that are not available in our Malaysian government website. Because there's actually one big book that they put on the MP's desk every session, but a lot of them don't even read. So now, with the cooperation with MPs like Kevin, all these things are available in a searchable format in part of the Source in our project. We also have APIs for Member of Parliament. So we also work with, you see down here, the Myanmar's sort of Member of Parliament information site. It's actually powered by our software. It's using a open standard called Open. Yes, of course, join the engineers online, please submit your own articles and join the Slack chat. And yeah, today's event is in here. We're probably competing in our competitors.
Share this before I
and yeah, if you are a company and you really need SLAs, support the top. And yes, we have
Test. Okay. Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about using web components as your building blocks, for building your next front-end web application. Okay, a bit about me. So now I'm a full-stack developer. I used to do Rails. Sorry, next gallery. I'm on Polymer 2 and Golang and backend. So my front-end journey started with Rails, of course. I use a lot of Rails helpers with some jQuery thrown in to do some fancy stuff. Then I joined BA Systems and I did some backbone. And we did our own internal backbone framework, which was it's very nice until you have these circular data flow issues and it was a pain to debug. But somehow we released. After that, worked on some Angular 1.5 or 1.6 with two of these guys here. Okay, yeah. So we work on a rather large Angular project. My opinion now is web components with Polymer 2. Vue.js, I think Tian Lee gave a really good talk 1 or 2 months back, so that's also another good one. Angular 4, maybe React, maybe, but I'll tell you why. Right now I'm building page-com. If you go there, it's just a Google form, but basically it's a personal web archive that you can just save any HTML that you see on the screen with your browser extension. But anyway, stay tuned. I'm still coding the thing. Okay, so when we talk about web components, what do people mean when they say web components? If you go to webcomponents.org, there's this helpful introduction. And basically, web components is comprised of 4 pillars, and each pillar is a new feature of the browser, which the browser is supposed to implement. There's custom elements, there's the shadow DOM, the HTML imports, and the HTML template. All of them together help make web components a thing, but you don't actually have to use all of them at once, because you use each of them independently of each other. Sorry, lots of words. So basically what it's saying here, custom elements. In the browser we have for the longest time the inputs, the buttons, the divs, and well, not really div, but the widgets that help you make your forms and stuff like that. So those are native elements. And the browsers, they're really slow to move, and but now we don't have to wait for the browser to finish your implementation of whatever fancy element, you can do it yourself and write your own custom element. So what's the difference between custom element and the element that you write in Vue.js or Angular, because those are custom as well. And the difference is the custom element allows you to listen for callbacks when the element is connected to the DOM, when the element is removed from the DOM, and when properties and attributes in the element change. So the changes in attributes now are no longer a framework thing. It can be a browser. It's natively supported by the browser. And you can use custom elements regardless of your framework. You can use React, Svelte, Vue.js, or Polymer. And basically, it's just a lower level API provided by the browser. And here is plain vanilla JS, JavaScript. There's nothing Polymer here. So HTML element is what is the class that represents the HTML element. You can extend it, and then those things represent the attributes that you want to observe for the element, and the attribute change callback, for example. We'll go into this, we'll see this again. And once you're done defining your custom element, you can you have to declare the custom elements.define and element name and element class. And then, after you have done this, after you have registered your custom element, you can go ahead and say, and use that element in your HTML. So, custom elements is now at the V1 stage. As you can see, Chrome is and Safari supporting these. Firefox is still under development, and Microsoft Edge, they're probably going to do it, right? Because Chrome is, everyone uses Chrome. And this is not so contentious. I think everyone kind of agrees that, custom elements is a good thing, and they want it in their browsers. The next thing we have, the second pillar of web components, is the shadow DOM. And if you are already familiar with web development, your CSS is global. You change something in one corner of the screen, you broke something in another screen, and your QA will come and tell you tomorrow. It's so common, it's so painful. We use all kinds of tricks and namespacing and inlining and blah blah blah. But now we have the shadow DOM, and the shadow DOM provides complete encapsulation for your DOM and your CSS within your web component. So if you define a class in your outer DOM, in your main document, and that class matches another div in your web component, it won't affect the styling of the web component. But it's still possible to reach down into the shadow DOM and set some CSS via some special CSS selectors and variable names. So CSS also has variables now, not just sets. And you can see this, I'll post this online definitely, about how you can reach down to all the custom CSS selectors for the shadow DOM. So the shadow DOM is actually nothing really new to the browsers, apparently, because things like this has been around for the longest time. And if you look at the HTML and CSS and JavaScript code, it's just one line of code, right? How can that be? Because there's some CSS, there's some sliders, there's JavaScript doing that. So the browsers have been cheating. They have already been doing shadow DOM under the hood. So I'm pretty sure that's written in some JavaScript HTML language as well. But they have isolated and drew the line so that the user, you as the user, you cannot see how they did it. Not affect some of the styling of it. So, that's a quote from this guy, browsers create a boundary between what you can see and the implementation details. But now, the shadow DOM is now made available to you as well. And shadow DOM is under development in Firefox. So it's a pretty bright future for shadow DOM. I think everyone agrees that CSS being global is a real pain, right? So this is not really a point of contention. Browsers are probably going to do it, and they will do it. It's getting greener by by the month. Okay, so next we have HTML imports. So you wrote your nice web component, and you will see later your whole web component sits in just one HTML file, CSS, scripts, and your JavaScript, and the template itself all sits in one HTML file. And how do you use that web component? You basically do something like this. Link rel import, and you point to the name of the HTML file that your component is in. So the corollary or the sister version of this would be your ES6 JavaScript imports. And this is the HTML version for that. And so this is the one that's causing some issues because Firefox has come up with a statement. We will not ship HTML imports in the current form. See status update until there's some consensus. You can use polyfills such as Google's web components. So Firefox is basically saying, no, yeah, good idea, but let's see how ES6 modules perform in real production before we commit to adding more complexity to our browser. So Eric Middleman is actually the developer advocate at Google, and he works on Polymer, and he says, yeah, HTML imports are awesome. Devs are asking browser vendors to implement, but yeah, we need more real apps to see the benefits and convince the world that we need HTML imports. And then he goes on ranting, and then I'm like, even Firefox? And there's no reply. So, yeah, that's not today, that's last month. So yeah, we are really cutting edge here, so I needed to go on Twitter to like talk to people. So yes, uncertainty, but I'm not going to worry so much because there's a way up. I think last week, some of the guys at Google, they went and created a Polymer Webpack loader. So if all else fails, you can load your HTML and then your web component into Webpack, just like everyone does, right? So I would say, yeah, slightly risky, but you know, Webpack can get your back if it fails to materialize in the future. Or you can keep using the polyfill. Yep, only Chrome because they're like, yeah, I'm going to do what I like, and Firefox would be no. Microsoft Edge, again, not quite far behind. This one, HTML template. So basically, today, if you write any HTML into an HTML document, it will be parsed by DOM. The DOM will go through and make a DOM tree out of it. But if you provide an HTML template with the tag name template, you're telling the browser to just keep parsing this, you'll worry about this template later. Just leave it there. And this is not the point of contention at all. It's very green, everyone is doing it, everyone loves it. So, the state of web components are such as this, and I think the most risky one would be the HTML imports part. It's really hard to get the browsers to agree. Let's take a look at their meeting. So they have a 2015 meeting, and this is an example of what is being discussed. So, the big four browsers, right, what to do about shadow roots, remove it, okay, fine, this is a consensus. Yeah, we'll wait, we want it, but no. Like it, oppose, Google doesn't want, slots proposal. Yeah, so as you can see, it's a real negotiation to get this thing going because everyone has to agree to some degree before we can move on. That's the challenge. If you ask me, is a no-brainer web component should be the thing, but because of things like that, we have to patch it up with other ways while the browsers try to agree. Yeah, but I think it's a good thing. Browsers should be slow because once they are done, they're done forever. All the websites depend on it, and you can't remove stuff from the web. Yeah. Okay, so where do web components live? educated. Please use Webpack. But it's okay because Bower is actually designed to be a front-end package manager, and because they are front-end focused, they want to keep only one version of every dependency throughout your dependency tree. Maybe I'll let Rob Dobson do some talking, so we can talk less. Hear me? Okay, never mind. This is HTML. Okay, I can't let you listen to him. I'll put the link up. And basically, he says, NPM is they try to make everyone happy. If you want a jQuery 1.1, if you want a jQuery 1.2, if you want a jQuery 1.3, we'll give all of you your versions. But Bower doesn't work like that. Bower says you all have to agree what version you want, and you're only going to use that. So that's kind of important for frontend because we don't want slow websites, right? And until NPM one day supports that kind of thing, we will stick to Bower. People will stick to Bower. And in fact, there are issues where people are trying to, hey, come on, guys, let's use NPM. But as you can see, the issue is still open. So just use Bower, you'll be fine. Okay? And I think Bower is great because you don't actually need a registry like npm.js. Because Bower kind of just grabs the GitHub code. You don't have to rely on central repo. So having said, browsers have polls, Firefox has a big HTML import poll. Actually, they already implemented HTML import, but it's behind the flag. So Firefox. If you don't know what polyfills are, actually it came from this brand here. If you have a hole in the wall, you use some putty and you apply it so that the wall looks like it's flat, and you paint over it and it's perfect. Right? That's a polyfill. And as you know, JavaScript, we have lots of polyfills to address all these browser differences. So for now, if you want to use web components, you can either ignore the polyfills and just ask your users to use Chrome, or you can polyfill your app. And the polyfill is actually not so stupid. There is a web components loader file that you download to your browser, and you'll try to detect what parts of web components you don't have, and subsequently only polyfill the stuff that you need. I'll show you later. Okay, so great. All this is great. It's also promising. So how do I get started? Let's do some coding. Okay. So make a new directory, and then call Bower on it. Name whatever you like. is here, Google Map, right? But Google Map itself depends on other dependencies. As you can see here, Polymer, Google Maps API. This is an iron component, which is a Polymer component, Google Map markers, etc. So everything that needs to support this Google Map component is being downloaded. Kind of put it in the wrong code. Okay, so yeah, that's good. So let's try to use our web component. And I'm just going to cheat a bit and copy some code here. Okay, expand please. Let me copy your code. Go back to our demo and create an index.html. And copy paste the code. Yeah, obviously doesn't have header, body, and HTML, but I think Google Chrome knows how to do it. So there's something I need to change. I need to point into the dependency. So I need to load the polyfill, and then this one I need to point to that HTML file, Google Map, and hopefully this works. So let me try to oh man, it worked. Okay, so that's how you get a web component onto your screen. So shop for your web component. There's tons of stuff here. This pretty cool one is Iron Ajax. Basically, you don't even need to write Javascript to make Ajax anymore. You just use the component has JavaScript inside that will help you query the data. So I want data from YouTube search with parameters, handle it as JSON. So yeah, everything is component, router is a component. It's pretty nice. Okay. So that's great. It's using somebody else's component. What about writing my own? So writing your own, you will start with, this is a Polymer actually. You have a DOM module, which is the Polymer tag. ID, given the name of the element, as a unique name throughout your application. And within the template, where it goes to your styles and your HTML. And then in your script, you just write native ES6 JavaScript. And then you declare it at the bottom. It's quite similar to what you saw just now on the hello element with pure JavaScript. We'll see this again. So here's a comparison between these two guys. Instead of pointing to glitch, I'm just going to point it here. So okay, so now we have another application, and it's actually. Okay, let's see what it does. So let's serve it. Okay, it's 8,000 again. 8,000. Load this. Voila. Okay, so now we have basically we are trying to write a happy thing custom element where if you wrap anything with a happy thing, it will basically wiggle the component. So let's look at the code. So in the index.html file, it's all your typical HTML stuff. Let's see how they use happy thing. So just wrap whatever you want to be happy in a happy thing, and it will shake the whole world. Alright? So the bulk of the code is really in happything.js. So this is no polymer, no framework, nothing. So you create a template element by yourself, because this is a JavaScript file. Set the inner HTML to this template string, and the template string is all the way down there. You could probably inline it as well, or use a template element and grab it by the ID. There's many ways to do it. But since we want happy thing to be self-contained, let's do this way. Grab the template and set it to the HTML, inner HTML. So this is a shadow DOM polyfill. Unfortunately, the polyfill is not good enough to do it automatically for you. You have to do some manual polyfilling for the shadow DOM feature. So that's that. And then this is just a JavaScript class with a constructor. Again, the shadow DOM polyfill, we need some manual work here. This one is this is the official way in JavaScript how to tell an element to have a shadow DOM. Attach shadow, node open. You can already do this today. This is the native way to declare a shadow DOM. And then you add your happy thing template into the shadow DOM. So this is pure JavaScript. And let's say you want happy thing to have one property and it's called animation. You have to declare getters and setters for each of the properties. Get animation, you have this one. Set animation, okay, do some validation and set. And this one we have seen before. This is the native way of observing attribute changes and observing attribute changes. And once again, you have to define this, register this custom element with the browser. And there you go. This is pure JavaScript, no polymer, nothing. So if you're happy with this, then you can go and start coding away without any framework. So let's take a look at the polymer version, which does the same. It's the same app really. It loads a polyfill from web components. Web components like. And like actually means something. I'll show you what the website is so you can read up more about it. And the whole happy thing sits in source happy thing. The rest of the HTML is the same, so let's go and take a look at happything.html. Okay, so every polymer element depends on polymer class. So we have to load it first, or we have to load it before you use it. Declare a polymer module and give it a unique name. You should just follow the same name here in file name, file ID, and one more here is you have to give it, define this class property is and return the same name. So unfortunately, some repetition there. The template is where the styles will sit, and this post CSS selector will style this current element, will style happy thing. And on somebody hovering on the most, which is happy thing, you do some animation. This is all the animation CSS beyond the scope of the top. This is the actual happy thing, right? It actually is just a div, one class, and it has a child node that's called slot. And slot is what they have all so far agreed with, browsers, and it basically says, whatever you put in between those happy thing flags, slot it in slot. Did I lose anyone there? So for classes, now instead of extending HTML element, we extend polymer element. And polymer element itself extends HTML element. And you see here that we don't actually have to do any shadow DOM manual setup, because polymer has done it for you. So that's +1 for polymer. Again, we also don't have to manually declare getters and setters for each of our properties. So it's +2 for polymer. Polymer gives you all these nice handles to observe changes in your properties. So if anything has changed animation change will be called. This one I'm not so sure we actually need it, but apparently we need to wait for the event to fire before defining custom elements. So yeah, Polymer is actually pretty thin icing on the cake when it comes to being a framework. It's just doing some extra little bit of annoying stuff for you, and it's not trying to do too much. So Polymer is not really your typical framework in that sense, I guess. It's very lightweight, and it just tries to make life somewhat easier for you. But their motto is to use the platform as much as possible, right? So I will go through the syntax of Polymer a bit, but if you lose track of me, don't worry about it, because it's all in like the documentation. The point I want to show is the Polymer API is really small. There's not a lot of things to remember. If you know how to write JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, you're 80% there. Compared to Angular, I'll show you the comparison, right? So we have seen this before, defining an element, typical stuff. You can extend an element, of course. You can extend your button element, your input element, Polymer element, your parent element, anything. This is nothing Polymer, nothing specific to Polymer. You can write mix-ins that will modify your class. Because JavaScript doesn't allow you to inherit from more than one class, therefore mix-ins will help you to mix in multiple flavors of functionality that you like. Just be careful though, if you overwrite one of the custom element callbacks, you need to call super if it's defined. So this is how you would use a mix-in. Basically mix the class into the mixin and extend it. That's it. Okay, so the lifecycle methods. The only thing specific to Polymer here is ready. So if you want to do anything that you want to when the element is ready, then do it in ready rather than in constructor. As for all these, they are native to custom elements. They are not Polymer specific. Connected callback means, yeah, I've been inserted to the DOM. Disconnected means I've been disconnected from the DOM. Attribute change, yeah, something needs to be changed. But you don't have to use this for Polymer because we can use their properties and their own system. Okay, data binding, fun stuff. So we have, if your property name is memo case my property, then the way to set the property from the outside HTML is with the bar case. One-way binding, so changes to my property gets pushed into the other property. And two-way binding, basically changes to my property gets set to this, changes to this, propagates back up. In similar fashion in many frameworks. Attribute binding, with the extra $sign, you can modify the actual attribute of the element, especially class, and all those browser attributes. Computer binding is where a special property which is derived from some other property. So define a new method that represents that property, a computed property, and given one of the properties returns another property. Okay, as we have seen before, observer just reports back that something has changed to my property. There's also support for more complicated observers. So this is something like what we saw just now. This one is when any of these changes, then this observer gets called. You can even observe keys of objects or deep inside an object. And you can observe anything in an array has changed or anything in an object has changed. Okay, how do we declare events? You want to listen to clicks, you want to listen to tags. Just do it natively with JavaScript. So use the platform, nothing special. special. This is not polymer at all. If you want to propagate events up the DOM, this is nothing polymer specific. You know, create a new event, create a new custom event, and dispatch it up the DOM. This is not polymer. This is just JavaScript. Okay, so properties, you know, you can look it up in the documentation. Property name, property type, property value. Apparently, if your property is an array or an object, if you want to set a value, you have to use a function. Reflect attribute. Should changes to this property reflect in the attribute in the DOM. Read only and notify corresponds to one-way and two-way binding. The naming is kind of confusing, this one. I encourage you to read the documentation. So read only would mean nobody else can come and try to set my property. So let's say if read only is true and you use a two-way binding in the DOM, changes in your child will not successfully change the read only property. So this is, to me, if you ask me what's the most confusing thing about polymer, is the naming of these things. Okay, computer property. So because JavaScript is a mutable data structure, has mutable data structure, if you change something deep inside an object, deep inside an array, you know, nobody knows about it, you know, because it will be too expensive to go through everything and see if there's anything that's changed. So you can use, to help Polymer, you can use this set or push API to make your changes so that Polymer immediately knows, hey, something changed, I got to re-render something. Okay? If it's not possible to use Polymer's API to change your data, then notify Polymer that something has changed. Okay? Okay, so here is the style modules, and I find that the styling support in Polymer I don't really miss SCSS or SAS anymore. They allow you to define variables. These are native to the browser. You can define a shared styles. This is by itself a HTML component, web component, and the component only contains styles. And in some other element, you can just include that as a dependency, your shared styles, and include the styling. So you can share styles across components in one place and import it everywhere. There's a slightly different syntax if you are not in a Polymer element. You use custom style, so this is like kind of quirks. You can define custom properties globally and use it in your styling. So all this is plain CSS. There's no CSS or SAS here. Or you can define your fallback variables. Not so sure if this is native or is it Polymer. I think it's native. It's native CSS. Okay, you can even define mix-ins for your styling, but the caveat is you need to use this apply shape thing. So define a mix-in that sets your border radius, and to use a mix-in, you can just apply your custom mix-in. Typical like Angular ng repeat, you have DOM repeats. I won't go into much detail, you can look it up in docs. You know, ngIf, now we have DOM. Okay, that's supposed to be DOM if, sorry, copy paste. Okay, copy paste totally failed. Okay, this is DOM if, you know what's DOM if? Okay, yeah, sorry. Duplicate slide. So, condition that is true, show the template, not true, don't show the template. Okay? There's also support for filtering and sorting, just like Angular filters. So all this is just to show you, I basically covered like 80% of the API. It's not really huge. You can understand understand it in maybe one night of reading. But there's no substitute for reading the docs. There's a lot of like caveats and best practices, etc. So please do read the docs. And I just wanted to kind of pause there and show you the beauty of it. So it's a very simple API. Let's compare to Angular 4 or 2. And we have all this thing, it's like, what? And like, oh my goodness, what do I remember? All this thing. I don't want to remember. Basically, I got tired after Angular 1. Like, that's why I'm so pro Polymer, because I don't want to remember anything. I just want to write pure JavaScript, pure CSS, and not remember APIs, right? And notice I have not talked about Webpack. There's no Webpack here. If I show you, the browser does not, there's no compilation happening, there's nothing here. Version. Everything you wrote is exactly as it was. There's no compilation, it's pure straight to the browser with the price of polyfill for now. That makes me very happy because I don't want to look at Webpack on Powerful because I can't figure out those source map things. It doesn't work for me. So Polymer CLI does that. Polymer serve is using Polymer CLI to serve our application. If you need advanced builds, you need modification, you need stuff like that. I haven't actually gone into all that production detail, but it is possible with a project called Polymer Build, which is what Polymer CLI is using underneath anyways. So you are covered if you want like there's no SAS, there's no SCSS, and why can we ditch SAS and SCSS? I think it's because every CSS, there's so much less CSS to write now that we don't have to worry so much about namespacing, because every web component is kind of isolated by itself. And I like that my JS and my CSS is in HTML, which is very natural. Your current website, your JS is HTML, CSS, versus React style, like your HTML and CSS sits in your JS. To me, aesthetically, I like the simplicity of the first one. Okay. So there are the cons. As you can see, the only champion for this now is Chrome. But as you can see, the 3 pillars of web components is pretty much going to be done. Alright? It's just the HTML imports part. And if you ask me what's going to happen is when the ES6 modules are matured, they will basically use that as the main platform to build on HTML imports. But that's based on my layman reading. The other con is, who uses Polymer here? I mean, no one uses Polymer except me. And in Malaysia, KL, right? Everyone's like React, Angular, Vue, right? So the mind share is less. You're stuck on something, less people there to help you. But as you can see, you should create a Twitter account you don't have and start shooting questions at all these guys and they'll answer you. And I like TypeScript, and I tried to use TypeScript with Polymer, but looks like there are 1,000 commits behind the master branch. So I don't think they have time for TypeScript now. And after trying Polymer in my application that I'm developing, I don't miss TypeScript much because my application is still quite small. But yeah, I find that because web components kind of encapsulates all your logic, find that your logic is becoming bigger and bigger, it means you need more components. You need to split up your components. And if you ask me, oh, will that cause more API calls to load more files from the server? Answer is yes, unless you run this tool at the production stuff. There's a tool called Organize that will help you to merge all your HTML components together so you load as few files as possible. So in your development, you can happily split up stuff as much as you can. So yeah, I come from Webpack world and I just do import something from some JavaScript file, right? And I want to put that in both my class and my polymer. And so I asked later on, how can I import ES6 modules into my web components? And he's like, it's not really supported if you're using Polymer. You can use really the one using library Meetup. Okay, thanks Rob. So the official way to import, let's say you want Moment.js, right? You want Moment.js dependency. The way to do it is, unfortunately, to wrap it in a web component, moment.html, that has a script tag that points to the moment.js file. And basically, other components will see it as a global. So yeah, that is the dirty part. I think we're taking a step back here. We're going back to global JavaScript. Very complicated. But I wanted to use Moment.js, but then I dug a little deeper and the platform did it for me. So I used Date. So if you encounter such scenarios, try to ask yourself, is the platform good enough? And most of the time, I think platform is good enough. And this forces us to really think hard about whether we should include that dependency. Because right now it's just too easy. You can install some fancy JavaScript library, boom. Webpack, build, and then suddenly your build is 3 megabytes. So I think this forces us, it could be a good thing, it forces us to really limit the amount of dependency that we're bringing into our application. Because now it's bloated. Yeah, I see very responsive, the community is great. Polymer conference is happening next month in Copenhagen. It's free. You just have to fly there yourself. I signed up for it, but I don't think I'm going to fly there. It's too expensive, like 3,000 something. And somebody is using it in production. Let me show you. Of course, Google is using it in production. They're using it for gaming.youtube. And wow, it works fine, man. And here's the proof, right? Polymer. It's all, see, it's, the components are all compiled together in one file. It's not sitting separately in different files because they use some tool to combine everything. So if you ask me, is it production ready? Yes. Maybe Google has some special tooling that we don't know about. So, so I haven't had the journey that far yet. Hopefully, production ready for me as well. And what other thing? Oh yeah, the interesting thing is, if you didn't notice, our new Chrome, the settings tab is actually in Chrome. Alright. It's a Polymer DOM module. That's your Chrome settings. I noticed when I loaded gaming.youtube on Safari, it loads a bit slow. Got something right here. So that's the price to pay. It's like the price. As you can see, it's very Google dominated. Good or bad, but they are using it, right? Even the new YouTube is now in Polymer. I opted in, so now I'm using the Polymer version. If you go to Safari YouTube, they actually use the older version. It's all JavaScript. Okay. So a lot of the content today is not thanks to me, it's thanks to another Google dev. She wrote everything and I copied everything. Okay. So don't thank me at all. Yeah, you should read this, it's so cute. I mean, just gotta read this. Polymer 2 cheat sheet. Everything I just told you, most of it is just from here. Okay? So, yeah, I stole it. And of course, yeah, this is the most important one you should read. This is the Polymer documentation. Of course, you've got to know web components. This is where Polymer elements live. One more thing that you should know is the web components GitHub page. This is where the polyfills live, and they tell you all kinds of interesting things like this. So, alternatively, this repo comes with web components that dynamically loads the minimum polyfill that you need in feature detection. So this is probably what you want in production. If you want to use ES5 web components, then because now custom elements must be ES6. If you need ES5 for some reason, they support it with this as well. So that's it for me. Hopefully, you'll see more Polymer apps coming from here. So, I will be building mine in Polymer. I can show you a demo. So I'm building a personal web archive. So I went to Google Maps and I basically clicked my extension button, which is this. I still replace the icon. So the same website you saw just now, I clicked everything and I installed the dependencies elsewhere. So I'm not dependent on the original website anymore. So the original website can go down and I'm still fine. I have a copy of the entire HTML page. It's pretty sweet because I can even copy the entire single page application because I'm basically taking all the JavaScript and the CSS and saving it to my service. I keep a copy of my own Stack Overflow page. So yeah, this is what I'm working on. It's very similar to the Evernote web clipper, and hopefully someone will find it useful and pay for my service, right? Okay, so that's all. Yeah, version 2. To launch this first. Okay, thanks everyone. The answer that I know for that is that there is this loader, Polymer Webpack loader. You can import your web components, and it explains how it works. Your HTML imports replace with ES6. Your DOM module becomes a JavaScript template. Your file becomes ES5. So this is really new. Look at that, like 6 days ago. I imagine this might be the way. But actually, if you're willing to have two frameworks living in your application, because your web component is just a HTML tag, right? So if you're, yeah, you need like evergreen browser. I think IE 11, I'm sorry, I don't think out of the box they can support that because ES6. Yeah, evergreen browsers. But when you launch up your application, yeah, steal my source. So they also provide a test module, and they try to load your DOM. And they will test this against all the browsers installed in your So yeah, all three works, but you should test it. Because actually, that app I showed you, you can't load in Safari. I need to debug that. And I am using my own version of Redux in this. I'm not using the Polymer Redux project. I kind of used to use a very simple one. I can show you what my Redux is now. I just created a Redux mixin, and then in my index, yeah, put it in the window. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do it else. So when I need to use the mixin somewhere else, for example, in this guy, I have to make sure Redux mixin sits in the global. Fortunately, I haven't figured out a cleaner way. But that's my own version of Redux. So technically, you can use Redux with this. Any other questions?
What is that one feature or benefit in our language that is so good that makes people want to switch to Polymer? Because some of it, I think that the cons of Polymer outweigh the pros like by one.
I don't know if you're listening to the same talk, because I like the beauty. Basically, yeah, I don't need Webpack, I don't need SAS, I don't need so many things that lie between me and my code. I don't have to rely on my React engine with its shady patent license. But anyway, it's really preference. Pros and cons, you know. If any engineering decision is a pro and cons. If all your developers on your team use React, then I don't think you should try to push Polymer. But the API is not very important. The pro is it has 8,000 web components sitting there in webcomponents.org ready for you to use. You know, if you want I'm sure React is going to have their own counterparts. If you want an infinite scrolling list, then Iron List is just sitting right there. Just pick it up and use it. So the benefit is, because I find that in a lot of these front-end projects, we are rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. So with components, you just buy the Legos and use it. Download free Legos and use it. That's why I really like it. Okay, thanks guys. It's past the time, but yeah, thanks.
That was a piece of the Salasin.10 podcasterium. It is hoped that you have enjoyed it. If you have any issues, please feel free to leave a comment through any of the channels. That was a piece of the Salasin.10 podcasterium. It is hoped that you have enjoyed it. If you have any issues, please feel free to leave a comment through any of the channels.